Thank you so much for joining in us today for the coffee session. Today we have an amazing speaker, Ruchita, with us. He has bagged an admit into INSEAD and he's here to give us insights on a journey so far. And she'll also help you to answer your questions. So let's get started. Thank you so much, Ruchita, for joining in us today. Let's start about hearing about your journey. So could you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Rahat, and hello, everyone. I'm Ruchita. A little bit about myself. I am natively from Ranchi, born and brought up in Maharashtra, Nagpur, Warra, Chandrapur, if you've heard about them. I graduated in 2017 as an electrical engineer from IIT Kharagpur. After that, I spent about 7 years working, and out of which the first 5 years I spent in General Electric. I joined into technology, so I was a software engineer for about 4 to 5 years, and after that I decided to pivot into product management and also pivot from the corporate world. I wanted to join the startup ecosystem. So the last 2.5 years I've been working in a fintech startup called Refine, and have been leading their lending product there. And after spending a good amount of time in the startup industry, in technology functions in various roles, I decided to also, take a leap further, pivot into understanding how global startup ecosystems work, how the PC ecosystems work around it. And that is where the aspiration to do an MBA kicked in for me. And yeah, here I am. I've got an admit in INSEAD. I was a round 2 applicant for the January intake. And I look forward to answering your questions and helping you with any questions you may have.
That's awesome, Ruchita. So we already have some questions from our applicants. So we'll start with those questions. Meanwhile, you all can please feel free to drop your questions in the chat box below, and then we'll take them up and then discuss. So the first question is, how can applicants align their essays with INSEAD's value of diversity and impact?
Sure. So INSEAD's values, diversity and impact. And if you look at INSEAD's website, I think they very profoundly talk about how much they value and how much effort they put in to ensure that they create a diverse environment for their students to thrive. So I think how to bring out that aspect in your application. I think the first step would be to understand how they look at it, right? Just learn about how INSEAD, why does it value diversity so much? And by impact, what do they really mean? So, and by international exposure, what do they really mean? So spend some time on their website, and also YouTube has a ton of content around how they look at the values. In addition to it, if you can speak with some of the alumni, that is also really helpful, just to understand what kind of what kind of personalities are they trying to look at, and what is it that when they mean diversity, inclusion, global exposure and impact. So once that's done, I think you reflect on your life. You try to understand where were those situations in your entire life. What are those peak points or situations which made you come out of your comfort zone and really interact with people from different backgrounds. It could be diversity could be caused by due to various things, right? It could be location, different functions, and different backgrounds, social backgrounds. So reflect and try to understand what were those places where you had to work with a variety of people, and you had to take into account the diverse people, diverse sets in the room, and accordingly modify your plan in order to ensure that the team, the group as a unit thrives. So that is something which INSEAD definitely values, and that also reflects in the class. They ensure, like the class composition, they ensure that none of the nationalities go beyond about, I think, 15%-ish. So that is their commitment to diversity. And if you're able to put out examples wherein you have thrived in a diverse environment, I think that that would work in your favor.
That's so useful, Ruchita. The next question is, how can international work experience help applicants stand out at NCR? And adding on to it, Smriti has asked that how critical is international exposure for the application?
Sure. International exposure. So again, what is the goal of asking that question, right? So like I said, INSEAD values diversity and your ability to work in a variety of environment. And also, INSEAD is very global looking. They talk about international exposure a lot, and they call themselves the business school of the world. That talks about how their inclination on how they want to create global leaders. And hence, they want to just understand if the applicant, would be able to thrive in an international setup. So that is the goal of understanding in the international exposure bit. How can you demonstrate it? It is important to demonstrate this ability to be able to thrive in an international platform, and hence the international exposure as an aspect is important. But how do you portray it differs from person to person. So every person's story is different. If you were able to, if you got an opportunity to work beyond your home country, I think great. That's the best way to share how you behave in an international setup. If not, for example, I didn't work in any place abroad. However, I had business meetings and seminars. So I used to be out for 1 week or so. So I used those, I compiled those seminars and meetings and assignments that I was out for, and put them out as my international exposure. Talked about how I grew in that environment. Also, if that also doesn't happen, I think I also leveraged the virtual meetings. So a lot of us, we work out of our home country, but we interact with people and teams from different locations, right? So feel free to talk about it, because that is also international exposure. You did work with people from different nationalities, and that could definitely work in your favor. If this also is not there, I think I've also heard about applicants talk about how they work about with diversity within their own home country. So diversity is not just tagged to location. If you're able to do that, great, because I think you're able to very clearly demonstrate international exposure. If not, also talk about how you worked in a diverse setup within your own space. So yeah, that is how a few points around international exposure.
Really good to know that. So we have the next question, which is, what key questions should candidates prepare for in the INSEAD interview?
Yeah. So key questions. First of all, INSEAD interviews are slightly different from interviews of the other B schools. INSEAD interviews are 2 in number. So the interview round comprises of 2 alumni interview. So you're not speaking to the admissions officer. Your admissions officer has already shortlisted you, read your application. The next step is for INSEAD alums to speak with you and understand. I think in the last session, Aditya had used a very nice phrase to it. So you're understanding the person behind the application, right? INSEAD interviews help us. The goal of the interview is to understand if the person on the application is the person they are speaking with. So that is about the interview. How do you prepare for it? No, not really any new question that you have to prepare for interview specifically. The questions are same. Why? Tell me about yourself. So use that as an opportunity to summarize your professional side, your personal side, and why MBA if possible. And typically, this tell me about yourself. Your introduction could be around for 5 minutes. And after that, the set of questions are very similar, like why MBA, why INSEAD, And typically, the people that you're speaking with are either from your current industry or from your target industry. So, also some conversations around why a specific choice of industry post or before MBA, how does it link, and so on. So, interviews would mostly revolve around this. Sometimes the conversations also go into understanding your leadership styles. So, what is your leadership style? How would you describe your leadership style? I think I had one interviewer asking me that question. So I think that could be few set of questions to prepare for. But I think those are typically fluid. You don't have to prepare for interviews. Maybe just ensuring. Maybe you can prepare a good "tell me about yourself," right? Introduction, because that is where most of the conversations stem from. The remaining questions you've already, put in a lot of hard work in during your application phase. So just being clear about it helps. That said, inside interviews are also about speaking. It's a conversation. So while you are giving the answers, you can also use that as an opportunity to ask the alums that, hey, how was your, campus life? I ended up asking tips about what to do before MBA or after or during MBA from my interview. So use that as a platform to also understand. They are very keen on, sharing their experiences and learnings from their experiences. So that is also a way of looking at NCR interviews. So yeah, I hope that answers the questions.
Interesting. That's really interesting. We have a question from Megha. He's asking, what is the ideal time duration to prepare application to apply for JAN intake at NCR?
I see. Is it just me?
And what is the range of GMAT one can look at?
Okay, so timeline for January intake and GMAT scores.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So January intake, I think the first, I was looking at dates, the first submission, the round 1 deadline is March and round 2 is April. So in general, before an application, I think from my experience, how I can break it down is you would at least need, say, about 2 to 3 months before submitting an application for one school. And that's because at least 1 month is required for that self-retrospection, right? Understanding what you're reflecting on your entire life and picking out, summarizing who you are as a person and creating that personal brand. So while I say that it's, I think Jay, if you could please go on mute. Yeah, thank you. So this is at least 1 month because retrospection is endless. And personally, I spent about 5-6 months due to various reasons. I had planned for a July intake and then ended up taking a Jan intake. So I took more than 1 month, but I would say at least one dedicated month for self-retrospection. And then, 2 months to understand how do you want to spread out that personal branding points across your LORs, across your different questions in your application. So that is, I would say at least 3 months, and more than 3 months is definitely preferable.
Good to know that. That's really enlightening. So we have a next question, Aryaman from Aryaman. He's asking that one of the essay topic for R2 in November is surrounding failure and how we dealt with it. So according to you, what kind of examples are they looking for in such situation?
Yeah. So I think the quality. So with every question, right, they're trying to learn more about you, right? So the goal of each question is to understand your motivation, how you are as a person, or how do you deal with a particular situation. I think for us, I know the questions have changed recently, but even I think even the previous questions had a failure part to it. It was part of a bigger question, but it was there. But so what I understand from that question is they're trying to understand how do you behave in a failure situation, and two, how you have dealt with it. So how has that changed you after that? So in such questions, the values could be different, right? Each one of us could deal with failure differently. You could be resilient, you could be creative, and various other values could come out of it. So use these questions as this particular question as a platform to share a tricky situation wherein you took charge of fixing it. It's okay. Failures, mistakes, they happen. But how did you fix that particular situation? And then in the long term, what steps did you take to ensure things get better, either for either for that particular area of failure or for you as a person? So what happened in the long term, what happened in the short term, how it changed you. So that could be how you could use this question to share more about yourself.
Awesome, Ruchita. So is there any difference in location of final placements or jobs at different campus locations?
Yeah, so quite a popular question. From what I understand, and this is something which is very widely testified as well. So both Singapore and Pontablo campus, they have placement wise there is hardly any difference. So when it comes to getting opportunities, there will be you can be chill that there will be no difference in terms of getting an opportunity in a particular campus. So that is about the campus placements. What can differ is about your choice, right? So if you're looking for a role or a post-MBA job in Southeast Asia, maybe it could be better if you could spend more time in campus. So it's not about placements as such, because placements is like few months in the campus. But if you want to build connections with corporates, if you want to build connections with companies, then it's better to stay at a place where you see yourself working. That is the only placement aspect. But when it comes to job opportunities in a particular campus, they are very similar.
Great. Ruchita, could you please throw some light on your journey from applying for July intake to Jan intake?
Yep. So the only difference between Jan intake and July intake is the 2 months additional that you get with the January intake. So you get an opportunity to do an internship with the January intake, and hence if you want to say pivot into a particular domain, you were in a domain A and you want to get into domain B, the Jan intake provides you that opportunity to do an internship, and then based on it get a full-time opportunity in that particular industry or domain. So this is one benefit. Opportunity wise, again, it's same, the course structure same, but if you want to maybe people who want to experiment with changing their domains, I think Jan intake could be useful. If you're very clear about staying in a particular industry, I think both the intakes play the same role. So yeah, that is how these two intakes pair.
Amazing. Also, what is the minimum and maximum work experience acceptable for INSEAD MBA?
Okay. So there is no fixed one over here. I think in INSEAD there are so many exceptions, and I think that is one reason how they maintain the diversity. But the most popular, the normal curve, right? The most popular experience range would lie between say 3 to 7 years. But this is the average or the statistic. But depending upon your story, I think I've also seen people with more than 10 years of experience, 10 to 12 years of experience, get into an MBA. So this is one parameter, but the driving reason which decides decides the fit for an MBA is your story, right? So where are you? Where do you want to be? And how does MBA fit as a bridge in between? So these are just statistics around it, but as long as you're able to justify this collinearity, right? Your current you, your future you, and how MBA in the middle fits and is needed. As long as that is justified, I think all the backgrounds, all the international exposure exceptions or experiences, that becomes secondary if you're able to provide that collinearity.
Good point. So we have this next interesting question from Sachi. She's asking, I have been working in leadership consulting. After my MNC experience, I am planning on speaking some time by switching jobs into the social impact space. Does this make sense for an INSEAD MBA admit?
So post MBA you want to get into social impact space, and what is the what is the current
Currently in leadership consulting for 5 years.
leadership consulting for 5 years. So there are Sachi, there are like a variety of stories, right? Just this much information might not be helpful to understand that okay, it's gonna work or it's not gonna work. And for that matter, I don't think any one of us can also provide that assurity that okay, if you write this, you'll get in. But I think what is important is to at least be convinced yourselves and maybe get it reviewed with people that you're surrounded with, that hey, is my story making sense? So if you are into leadership consulting and you want to get into social impact and social impact space, social impact again is huge, right? What do you want to do in the social impact space? Do you want to start up? Do you want to work in a particular function? Do you want to invest? So it's quite broad right now. So if you're able to define it, that I am doing leadership consulting right now, I need an MBA. So I already have a set of skills X. I need a set of skills Y with the MBA. And with this X plus Y, I'll be able to do ABC in social impact space. So if you're able to provide that trajectory, I think it would definitely make sense for you. And that is not just for the applications, for also for you to understand, MBA is a huge investment and commitment. So why MBA really for you? Are you sure that MBA is needed to get into that space? What's stopping you to getting into that space right now? So I think that introspection and being able to put that trajectory out this way, if you're able to do that, I think definitely worth a shot for the application.
That's useful, Ruchita. The next question we have is, have you come across people who haven't landed on job in your INSEAD university life?
At least not so far. I've spoken with people who were not placed immediately after their graduation, but 2-3 months down the line, I see their LinkedIn posts. So soon after graduation, I'm aware of people taking a break, and I spoke with quite a few of them. But I think 3-4 months later, I am at least not aware of people who are not placed. I cannot think of any. So most of them, and that is the trend as well, so most of them do get placed within the post 3-4 months after their graduation.
That's awesome. So Ruchita, the next question is, how are GRE score perceived over GMAT at INSEAD, and what are the good GRE score ranges one must aim for?
Yeah, I think I missed this question in the previous question as well. So about scores, so GRE, I'm not sure. I think it's 320 plus. Please correct me if I'm wrong. GMAT Classic, like the older GMAT, it used to be around 690, 700 plus. Again, this is something which you get on their website, and this is something which, if you're able to crack this good, safe space, like academic potential, that it gets sorted for you. But is that if you're able to get good GMAT and GRE scores, great. And that kind of justifies the academic potential bit. But if not, again, I think every European B schools and INSEAD, they look at the holistic profile, right? So the entire you, so academically, how are you doing? And GMAT is one way of sharing that particular aspect. It could also be your school scores. It could be there are various other ways to share this particular academic capability. So if a GMAT score or an exam score is there, good. If not, then you could use a variety of ways to justify that academic potential. And and there is so in the application section, there is an additional question where you can justify, if there is if the academic trajectory is slightly different due to whatsoever reasons, right? You have a question where you can explain that particular bit, the lost link. So, I was great at my university, or I have a good GMAT score, but I did not have a great CGPA because I was doing so and so. So you have a space to share your story there. So yeah, hope that answers the question.
Okay. So, Ruchita, is low bachelor CGPA an issue, or it can be compensated by IIT masters or work experience?
So the again, what are they looking at? So admissions criteria, right? There are 4 things that NCR talks about that is part of their admissions criteria: ability to contribute, academic potential, leadership potential, and international exposure. So if you want to talk about academic potential, and that is where you are concerned that, hey, the GPA might not be justifying the academic potential, I think it's fine. You can justify it by an equivalent, or either explaining it, or an equivalent story that explains your academic potential. So if you think that my CGPA is low, but I got a master's, I did so and so in hands-on work, laboratory work. If you think that justifies or shows your academic capability, go ahead. The story could look different for each one of us, right? But if there is any story that you think will be able to justify that particular admission criteria, I think go ahead.
Good point. Also, how is campus selection determined? And what about student accommodation?
Okay. Campus selection, I don't know. I'm not there yet. But maybe I can share a little bit about what I'm aware of and what I'm able to gather so far. So so I see many people from India, right? And Indian universities, they help you a lot in terms of placements, and there are a lot of different rules and regulations when it comes to placements, college placements here. There, I think it's very much self-driven. It depends on you, how you much want to take benefit of the CDC, the career development center there. The coach is there. So each student has a leadership coach, a career coach, and there are various avenues for a student to take benefit of. It depends upon the student how much they want to take use of the campus provided facilities, and hence use that to also expedite their chances for campus selection. Otherwise, you can also choose to say that, I will choose or to define my career outside, like offline, off campus. I'll identify my own networking methods and go ahead with it. So it is very self-driven. Exactly what the campus selection criteria are, I'm not very aware of it, but I do know that it's very self-driven. The avenues are there. You can choose how much you want to take benefit of it. So that's about the campus selection. And about accommodation. So there's no hostel, folks. You have to find out your own accommodation around the university. I'm not so aware of the Singapore campus, but at least in the Fontainebleau campus, the city, the small town seems to be filled with students. So very friendly folks. A lot of options, housing options there, ranging from, like, depends upon your lifestyle. What kind of place do you want to live in? Do you want to live in with a set of set of people, so your batch? So in a villa with 10, 12 people, or do you want to live in a studio apartment alone? Your choice, depending upon your lifestyle. So multiple options. But yeah, you have to find your own accommodation around school. But there are many options.
Insightful, quite insightful. So we have this interesting question from Roshma. She's asking, how are academic parameters evaluated in the absence of a CGPA, since she did her CA course directly and BCom to correspondence?
Okay. So there's no CGPA, but there is like the CA there.
Yeah.
Got it. I'm not I'm not very aware of the the CA structure, so I won't be able to answer this like fully. But I think to get in touch with MBNP or people who have, or maybe get in touch with me. If I find someone, I'll put them in touch with you who have done their CA and demonstrate displayed their the academic potential bit on their application. I can get you in touch with them. But yeah. Definitely, it's not. All I can say is, it people doing their CA and getting into INSEAD is a common phenomena. So we'll just get you in touch with people who have done that in the past.
Awesome. Also, could you please throw some light on the acceptance potential between R2 and R3?
I see. So acceptance potential, it's always highest in R1. I think that is very clear, right? Because you have the maximum chances there. It's a blank slate. So if you can try for R1, definitely go ahead and try for R1. If not, in my opinion, I think R2 is definitely worth a shot. R3 not so recommended, but like again, we do have I'm in touch with people who made it into R3 as well. So it's just that with every round, right, the effort that you have to put in and to ensure that your application is really standing out will increase. And of course, because the batch is already full or getting full over time, the chances, the natural probability of or would decrease. But definitely R1 and R2 worth it. Also from a scholarship standpoint, right? I'm not aware of other B schools, but for INSEAD, what I'm aware of is they wait for R2 to allot the scholarship fund to that particular batch. So again, it's MBA is a very costly degree to pursue, right? And if you're looking for scholarships, definitely R1 and R2, because by R2, the majority of scholarship fund will be allocated. And if you take it in R3, even if you're able to, make it, you'll have to try a little harder to get the scholarship. So, yeah.
Awesome. So, Ruchita, what's the ideal time to start working on the round 2 INSEAD application as per you?
I see. I think as soon as possible. And like I said, at least 2 to 3 months, you want to give yourself that time to put the best foot forward for your dream school. But yeah, if you have limited time, then there are exceptions. Please go ahead, right? The case varies from person to person, but definitely the answer is as soon as possible. If you have 3 months, if you have 6 months, get started at least with the self-retrospection bit, right? Because I think the more you spend time on your story, the better you're able to also answer or be clear about why you are doing X, Y, Z, who you are, and what are the things that you want to highlight in your application. It just gets better the more and more time you spend there. When it comes to the application bit, so once you are done with the retro, I think application bit, I think 1 to 2 months should be good. I think I personally did the INSEAD application with MBNB within a month. But before that, I had spent a lot of time with understanding what are the things that I could highlight. So yeah, ideally 2 to 3 months, at least this much, and if possible, more than that.
Interesting. What are the best funding options for INSEAD, including scholarship and loans?
Funding. So yeah, there people fund their MBAs differently, self-funded, or sometimes if you're part of a corporate that also funds education, then I think that is also a way to seek funding. If that is not there, I think you always have an option for loan. Loan is there and scholarships is there. So when it comes to loan, this you have an option of taking an international loan or a local loan, and again it depends on your personal choice on what you want to prefer. typically, when it comes to the country loans, and talking specifically about India, you have to present collateral and a co-signer, a lot of documentation. But the good thing is that the interest rates are lower, and especially if you go for government banks, best interest rates, and but with a lot of logistics. International loans, on the other hand, and quite a little bit of referred banks are mentioned on INSEAD's website. There the process is relatively smoother, no cosigner, no collateral, but you might end up paying a little high interest rate. So that is around loans. When it comes to scholarships, INSEAD has a wide pool of scholarship there, and there are different types of scholarships, like based on, again, your profile. If there are women specific scholarships, there are special profile scholarships, entrepreneurship, people who are into entrepreneurship wanting to do an MBA, special scholarship for them. And I think this is again an open information. You should be able to find it on INSEAD website. So for those INSEAD specific scholarships, you have to write an SOP, and this happens after you get an admit. So once you've gotten your confirmation, you will receive like an email from INSEAD scholarships team requesting you to populate your profile on the scholarship portal. There you have to give your financial background. What are you looking for? Like, be very clear about the amount that you seek help for. And then for that particular amount, you write SOPs for various scholarship funds. This is how INSEAD scholarships work, and after like a month or two, you get a result. But apart from INSEAD scholarships, there are scholarships outside as well. And specifically for India, I can tell there are multiple scholarships, state scholarships, national scholarships, and then there are international scholarships as well, such as Aga Khan. Their deadlines are around Jan to March, so you could also take benefit of them.
That's useful information. So what are some of the parameters on which INSEAD provides scholarship to applicants?
Okay. I can tell you what they ask in the scholarship form, right? So it's mostly the match. Just like you did your hard work to match your profile with the B school and ensure that it's gonna work. Something similar when it comes to scholarships, right? Each scholarship, the L'Oreal scholarship, the various set of scholarships, they'll have their own philosophies on why do they want to fund a particular child or a particular student. What with that funding, what kind of leaders, what kind of people do they want to support? So if you're able to resonate with that particular value, that I think that really helps. That helps you stand out for that particular scholarship funds. Few scholarship funds specifically look for special profiles. So if you're very, very different from the regular profiles, if you were a singer in the past and you think you're looking forward to do an MBA, there's a special scholarship fund around it. So I think what are they looking for? Each scholarship fund looks for a different kind of profile. You need to maybe find out which one do you resonate best with, and share, just put out your story authentically for that particular scholarship fund.
Amazing. So we have a question from Ankur. Do INSEAD grads go into PE or VC roles?
PE and VC roles, yes. So the first set where INSEAD grads go is consulting, but followed by that is financial services. So I personally am exploring the venture capital world right now, and I already have a list of INSEAD grads who have started funds, who are working as associates in funds. So yes, the answer is yes, and there are plenty. You can already get in touch with them on LinkedIn.
We have this question from Mehak that someone who has applied for September intake can also apply for Jan intake as well.
if you have applied and it didn't work out in that particular round, I think there's a cool off period before you can apply for the next time. I'm not sure what that cool off period is. I'm not sure, but I think it's about a year. Just check it out. But it's not that, we can apply on consecutive applications. There is a cool off period applied, and you might also want to specially work. So for reapplicants, right, you might want to specially work on your story on how do you want to put out, because there was a certain reason why the first application didn't work out. So you might want to also reflect and try to justify in your second application that, hey, this is what happened between the first application to the second application, and hence now I think this is the right next step for me. So check out the cool off period, and also be cognizant about the change that you want to demonstrate, about what changed between the last application and this application.
Great. Also, what would be the median time in years when one could cover up his or her loan post-job?
So stories differ. I'm so sorry, but the stories differ from people to people. I've heard about people paying their loans right off in their first few months because they get a very huge bonus from their full-time job, and they pay half off their loan. And I'm also aware of people who say, like, on an average, it should get over by 4 to 5 years. Of course, it depends upon the amount of credit you have taken, the job that you have landed in post MBA. But so far, that is the number that I've heard repeatedly, not just from NCR grads, but from various schools, at 4 to 5 years. And I've also heard the second peak story is that, hey, we got a huge bonus and that helped us pay the 50% of the loan. So yeah, around that.
Another question we have is about the GMAT range one should target. So if you can please shed some light on the GMAT range.
Yeah, I think we spoke about it. When it comes to GMAT, classic, so equivalent, I would be able to share about the classic scores, 690 and above, right? And if you're above 700, great. I think that's you don't have to justify your academic potential anymore. That said, if you have a lower score, you can brainstorm on how you want to demonstrate the academic potential, but that is the recommended score to have in GMAT. And if you get a higher GMAT score, right, you're always rewarded when it comes to 740, 750. If you're able to get your score around that range, it helps you with your scholarship as well, by the way. So in addition to your scholarship story, your GMAT scores could also help you stand out when it comes to a scholarship application. So definitely target for the highest possible, because it just does not help you in your application, but also helps you maximize your scholarships that you could get.
How many scholarships can we club in?
So NCR will only give you one. So they have various students to help, right? So you'll get one scholarship from NCR. If you get more scholarships outside NCR, right, through your country or any other scholarship outside NCR, then you can get as many scholarships outside NCR based on your profile, right? But if you have scholarships from outside and NCR, then NCR might consider to reevaluate the scholarship that they have given. So yeah, any number of scholarships, but NCR will only give you one. And if you have multiple scholarships from outside, NCR will reconsider the scholarship that they've given to you, because the goal is to ensure that your financial burden is reduced. It could be reduced through various sources, and NCR limits it to one per student.
Interesting. So we have this next question from Sean. He's asking, if I am pivoting industries and looking to go into consulting, do you think that January intake is better?
I think consulting or for any other domain, right? It's the January intake versus July intake. I think you would want to ask that question to you if you want to change industries. Not as if there is a specific industry that you are looking for. There's no such thing as, hey, Jan intake is good for financial services and July for something else. There's no such thing like that. If the point is you're pivoting and you would like to do an internship first and you would like to take that route, if you think that is a preferable route for you, definitely Jan makes more sense. If you replace the question with any other industry, right? If you replace consulting with any other industry, doesn't change the Jan intake or July intake. But the question that you want to ask is, do you want to use an internship to pivot to that particular industry? Do you think the internship is necessary? If yes, and or if you want to take that path, definitely you can prefer the Jan intake. But if you think that I'll be able to pivot industries because of my background or connections or my abilities, whatever, without an internship as well, I think July works good for you too.
Amazing. We have this next question from Mehak. She's asking, what defines as international exposure?
Okay. First of all, I'm really sorry I'm not able to look at the chat. So I hope your questions are getting answered. And if I'm not able to answer those questions, please shoot them on LinkedIn. And now coming back to international exposure. So the question is about what is international exposure? Sorry, can you repeat?
Yeah. So Mehak is asking what exactly defines international exposure.
I see. So, goal of international exposure is to understand how you fare in an international setup, right? INSEAD as a school calls themselves as a business school for the world. So they want to build leaders that are, ready to serve the entire world and not a specific region. So the goal of that international exposure aspect is to understand, would he or she be able to drive things in an international platform with a variety of people, with a variety of cultures and setups. So that is the goal. And how do you justify it varies. If you're able to do that with your work experience outside your home country, if you're able to do that with the short trips or seminars, that professional experiences that you've done outside, that could also help you demonstrate that. If you've done that locally, like staying within your home country, but you were in touch with people from different nationalities, different cultures, that also works.
Okay.
Hope that answers.
So Ruchita, what is the maximum work experience acceptable for INSEAD MBA?
Yeah. So on their the typical recommended WorkX is 3 to 7, right? And more than that, again, it depends upon your story. But typically that is the range that they look for, or more than they don't, more than putting it out as they look for it, more than that is the range in which the students come. But if there is a lesser experience or a higher experience, sometimes an MIM could be recommended for people who have lower experience. For people who have higher experience, an executive MBA could be suggested. But depending upon your story, if you think that no, for me, even if I have 15 years of WorkX and executive MBA, which is truly expects you to have some business background, that won't work for me. I need an MBA because I need to learn business from basics, and I need that environment, that peer-to-peer learning opportunity to connect with people and build that foundation. MBA could be justifiable for you as well with the limited or higher WorkX. But 3 to 7 is the statistical data.
Great. So before we take the last question of this session, I would like to share that we are offering a supersonic package as well for the applicants who are targeting R2 NCR November 5th deadline. And if you are someone targeting that the Jan intake, we have open slots for that as well with the most stellar consultants. So you will receive an email from our team after this session, and so you can grab your offering and let's work together to create compelling application. So we have this interesting question again from Sachi. She's asking, how does INSEAD view sabbaticals? do they value work in community service or social impact, plus MNC work experience as well, or are they not so concerned with that?
They're concerned about you as a person, and you could do multiple things, and definitely do getting exposure with social impact, community service, sabbaticals based on what you've done in the sabbatical, and if it defines your personality, definitely it is a great value add. So they're not looking for sabbaticals per se, they're looking for you, and if you're able to define you with the sabbaticals, I think that's the story that you want to put forward. People who have taken career breaks in the middle, sharing your story on, what happened, what were you able to achieve, or what changed between that particular gap or that particular activity. That activity could be a sabbatical, a break, or community service, a time taken out for community service. It could be anything, but the goal of each of these stories should be to understand what is it that you wanted to talk about. Okay, you did community service. What do you want to talk about? What happened after that? Were you able to demonstrate empathetic leadership? Were you able to drive things at scale? And that basically demonstrates your hunger for growth. What is the personal aspect that you want to highlight with those experiences? The experiences could vary, but the goal needs to be those like personality aspects that you want to highlight, and that is what the school is looking for. They're looking for things that define you as a person, and your activities could vary. And in general, as a community service activities, I think these serve as great examples to talk about your involvement beyond work and showing empathetic leadership. So you can use it that ways, but they're not specifically looking for it. So if you don't have one, doesn't mean doesn't mean that it's not adding up. It's just a way to demonstrate a particular aspect of your personality, but definitely having it helps.
That's great. So we will take up this last question from Lisha. So the question is, what is the maximum scholarship percentage we get?
Okay. So the maximum that I've heard of when it comes to INSEAD scholarships is about, very rare. I've not personally spoken with people around it, but I think maximum is around 40%. And please correct me if that's off the track. 40% is something that I've heard. The people that I've spoken with, they typically receive scholarships around 10 to 25k ish, and very few cases that could go up to say 40k euros. So yeah, that is about it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ruchita, for such an enlightening session. And thank you everyone for joining in. Also, we have this WhatsApp community wherein you can join and we can connect, and we'll discuss more about the INSEAD application and other applications as well. So thank you so much for joining in. And thank you so much again, Ruchita. It was really an amazing and awesome session.
Thank you for patiently hearing, and thank you for asking your questions. You could get in touch with MBNB or me here on LinkedIn. I've shared the link, and hope this was useful. All the best for your applications, everyone.